All right, hello. Today I'm folding a massive pattern. Um, this is going to be spinning skirts. It's an alternate ending of dancing streamers, which you might remember I did a tutorial on back in May. So if you want to see a tutorial version for the beginning, head over to dancing streamers, and then you'll also see how this pattern is different. So I'm going to start out, and I'm going to be folding at full speed. I'm not going to be using pen. I'm not going to really stop and show each little piece here. This is an 80 division grid. I believe the fraction was 3/5, and yeah, that pinch mark is above the halfway point, and I have to be really careful to remember that the first twist is actually on the back, which does make it easier to find the pinches. But yeah, most of my crease patterns, and by the way, you can actually you can't find the crease pattern for this one yet because I've never folded it before, and so there's no photos to go with the crease pattern. But it'll be coming out in the next 2 months. By the end of September, I'll have the crease pattern for this in the Advent of Tess 2026 ebook. So with these massive grids, the first twist is a little challenging. Yeah, let's say that again. And I'm happy to chat and answer questions and talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. For example, the last couple of these, there have been heat waves in Europe. I haven't been following the news to see if that's still the case. For my weather, just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we've had a nice cool week, like highs around 80 Fahrenheit and lows in the mid 60s. Okay, got the twist. One thing you will see in all of my crease patterns is that the central twist is right-handed. So that at least you don't need to worry about. And then triangle at tube plate spacing, closed triangle. And I guess while we're on the topic of heat waves, the July design challenge on the CFC site, the Everything Origami site, was summer days / climate change. So I actually did something that I almost never do, which is design a pattern, fold it immediately, photograph it immediately, and have it posted somewhere within a month. And that pattern is named Heat Wave. You can check it out if you go to the CFC Origami, I think I forget if it's .org or .com. And you can see that challenge. And I think voting is going to be open all month. So if you want to give me a vote, that would be appreciated. I'll make sure to put links to Dancing Streamers, to the Dancing Streamers tutorial and the challenge on the description once I'm done. But yeah, I'll keep an eye on the chat. I'm happy to talk. But for now, I'll play my music on my headphones. You can listen to your own music, and there will be no copyright issues. So, enjoy. And then the next ring around the center will be exactly the same as Dancing Streamers. That's the amount that'll be the Advent of Tess tutorial for this year. And then after that, we'll get into some new stuff. Let's see. And that's gonna be a rhombus, but not yet, because that would send a pleat across the other direction too. And we've got tube pleat spacing and our 2 triangles at this overlap with corners touching. And then we have another space before the next triangle, which needs a compound wrap. One fun thing about these bigger patterns is that you get lots of crinkling, of smoothing the pleats out to the edge. I love how the paper sounds. There we go. So now since I did those triangles, I have the pleat for the rhombus. here, sometimes it's easier to do the rhombus first instead of the triangle. Easier wrap. And now we get new stuff. Need to pay attention. Okay, so got spaced triangle is the one that goes to triangle on this side. This is the position of threefold symmetry, and the corner of this twist is one space out from the hole. There we go. And then have intersection on this side. I'll finish that as a rhombus twist later. Get the, or will I? I mean, later now or later. Because I think, yeah, I get the whole thing. And that outlines my position of twofold rotational symmetry. What happens off of that? Well, it would be the same thing that's over here, so triangle. Another triangle. Lots of triangles. This ring around the center. Okay, yeah, that sequence makes it a bit clearer. Okay. Oh, hey, Erlu. Glad you could join us. Mm. I think maybe the hardest part about this for me is that I'm listening to music that I want to harmonize with, but that would not make for a good recording. Mm. Nice. So early, did you get the encrusted crease pattern from Origami Deutschland, the convention book? Or you have Tessellation Garden, right? So you would have it from there too. That's a fun one from this last year of Advent of Tess. So I think if you did 64, that would be more than I've ever folded of it. In general, with all the patterns in Tessellation Garden, whatever the photo shows, that's the most I've ever folded of it. So I usually just fold things once for the photos. Medium grid? I'm a little confused. What do you mean by medium grid? Ah, yeah. Yeah, in the Advent of Tess 2025. So encrusted is a pattern with trapezoid twists on both sides. And then trying to remember if that's the one with the mixed up thrombus twists or something else going on. It might just be the trapezoids and then a bunch of triangles in between, and then Barnacles is the one with the mixed depth rhombus, but they all start to run together at some point. Yeah. Yeah, 48 and 64. I do consider those medium sizes. For me, 32 is small. 24 or 32 is small. 48 and 64 are kind of medium. And then big is 80 or more. That actually correlates really well to the sizes of paper that I use for those different grids. Although I have been known to do 48 divisions on small hexagons. Heck, I've been known to do 32 divisions on a hexagon this size. Yeah, encrusted's definitely not an easy pattern. Those trapezoids are pretty close together, and the way that they're laid out... Wait, that should not have been a triangle. The way that they're laid out means that you, after a little bit, and this is like after the 24 divisions, you don't get any true tiling breaks anymore. And that's particularly tricky with the trapezoid twists. So that's something you have to look forward to. Oh. Sometimes the end of the ring around the center sneaks up on you, like this one. Oh, and at some point with this pattern, I expect that I'll have some pseudo tiling breaks, but we haven't run into one yet. And let's see. I want the thing that goes there are these two. Okay. I'm going to do the rhombus first because it's easier to identify. And on this side, that's actually going... This is that guy. Okay, yeah, there's a triangle on the other side. Well, it would be 32 with this size, and then I've done 48 on this size, which is what I usually do the 24 for the Advent of Tess tutorial videos. Okay, so we've got this up above the two, going 3 spaces to the triangle. And that rhombus will sit as a 3-way intersection until I get the rest of the way around. Okay, And that was triangle on the back. Got these spaced out, yeah, symmetric around there. So I need another one close in. That's going to lead to one on the other side. It's going to lead to something on the other side, right? Yeah, both of the other pleats of that triangle go to stuff on the other side. And that is going to be a rhombus. Coming up here, there's the three-way, the rhombus. I get another rhombus. And that's the same as that one. So it's triangle and rhombus time. That goes to the triangle wrap. Yeah, so for this pattern, it is a central closed hexagon, and then the triangle and rhombus on this side, like dancing ribbons or dancing streamers. And then I think in dancing streamers, the next rhombus would be a position of symmetry, but this is an extended pattern from that. It'll show up in the next Advent of Tess ebook. And we've got these triangles that are positions of symmetry, and we have these three distinct closed triangles on the back, but no rhombus twists on the hexagon side. So these two right next to each other, and then a third. This is where in dancing streamers we would have the loop of 6 triangles. That's a position of threefold symmetry. Oh, did I already put it there? Cool. And triangle. So we just saw for the first set of parallel plates for this ring around the center, I had to really focus. I was really talking stuff through. For this set, I'm kind of consolidating and remembering. And then after that, I'll probably start the music again. For me. And here I could, instead of setting up the whole rhombus right away, I could set that as a three-way intersection. I'm intentionally keeping this whole thing 3D, so I'm immediately going and putting in a triangle wrap. One thing to notice when you're doing these bigger patterns on bigger grids is when you're working on a set of parallel pleats, when you're working from one side to the other, you start, you have overlaps with all of the pleats in the set, and then you're going through and processing and getting rid of one overlap, and then the next overlap, and the next overlap. So each time there should be fewer overlaps until you get to the next set of parallel pleats. And actually, it's not that bad to go ahead and set up that rhombus and wrap along with the triangle. And you know it's an extended pattern because I've been folding for 45 minutes without seeing any repeats of the central hexagon. They're coming. They won't even be completed in the next ring around the center. Yeah, so let me see if I understand. Are they saying that they often have difficulty remaining disciplined when they repeat the central motif 6 times around the first central motif? It's a satisfaction not to kind of scatter around and to find the parallel folds. Yeah, it gets very systematic, very satisfying to do one layer, another layer, and then to not have the tangle of pleat overlaps. Like when you're able to have a layer with no overlaps, that is definitely very satisfying. It can be easy to jump around and be like, oh, I'll do this part next, I'll do that part next. But the layers keep things tidy. And here's the challenging squash. Gotta set these both up. And okay, tiny paper for the win. Or a tiny grid. Skytone paper for the win, I guess. And now yeah, definitely not easy to explain technical things in text. Okay. So conveniently now I can tell that this is the slant of the pattern with the pleats coming out, and I picked right the first time to go around this way. So that's fun. And then got my tube pleat spacing, the triangle, and that's going down into that hexagon hole, which we'll have as a compound wrap. And we'll make this a half hexagon tube with, I keep saying I'll make it. If you know how to fold tessellations, this would be a relatively straightforward one to follow from what I'm doing. Using just basic twists. Spacing that's pretty easy to count. So now we see a hint of the central hexagon. 50 minutes in. And that goes to to the gap between two rhombi, only one of which I'm going to fold fully. This one's going to sit there. That one's, yeah. And that's going to go to triangle on the other side because that's our two-fold position. And I'm going to flip this over to make it smoother to squash and then put it back. Okay, two-fold position, so I get my next triangle right next to this one. Okay. And then the next thing is on the back. Okay, so this is the same as this. Got that rhombus. I don't think I get the full rhombus. Yeah, I just get the intersection. Told you there would be a pseudo tiling break in here somewhere. I'll go ahead and do the compound wrap feeding into the hexagon as well. Okay, something got flipped around. This pleat's supposed to be, yeah. That pleat got flipped, and if it's flipped, then I can't do my wrap. There we go. Then the two rhombus twists. Only one of which will actually be fully folded. Conveniently, the triangle's on this side, so I can move that flap out of the way. Then we start the next set of parallel plates. Mm. It's twice in a row I chose the wrong grid line. Mm. Looks like 2 sets of parallel plates left on the string. I counted 4 half hexagon tubes. We're going for 6. So this pattern, if we just look at the area left, I think I could easily go another hour or two. Well, probably at least 2 hours on this pattern. I'll do enough to see a repeat of the center twist on here. Then we'll see. I do have a hard deadline because I have a office hour with the students in my courses at noon. But we got some time. And here we get a slightly different sequence at the end of the ring around the center. So we've been starting the next ring with the paired closed triangle. But this time, instead of having an overlap from that, we're going to do a triangle wrap, and that finishes the ring. So, just like that. Okay. Next ring. I can Oh yeah, lots of interesting patterns often require space and folding time before repeating. Yeah, work, but all the more satisfying. Absolutely. And actually, one thing that I usually do when I'm folding just by myself is hold up to the pattern to the light after each ring around the center. I can get some light on here. So this one's named Spinning Skirts, and because the skirt flares out when you spin, and that's what each repeat kind of looks like. And then there's some empty space until the next dancers. So that's what's going on in this pattern. Oh, and these triangular areas are showing up nicely, almost teardrop shaped around there, and there's nice divisions in between. Cool. Okay, so continuing from here with a rhombus twist. Lots of overlaps. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I guess I've done 4 rings around the center so far. So 1 pleat for the first ring, and then an additional pleat for every, or 1 pleat for the first hexagon, and then an additional pleat for each new one. Oh no, that's just the overlaps. I already had another pleat, so I've done 5 rings around the center. And I'm just now getting to the first repeat of the central twist. And I always twist it all the way around. Leaves a tighter hole on the other side. Nice, nice. That needs to be the 2 triangles. But it's 2 that are further apart because I need the tube pleat spacing. Yeah, and symmetric from these is here. Yep. These are a copy of these 2. And here we finally get to another closed triangle on the front in the symmetric position. here, instead of setting up both of those rhombus twists so that they have to be squashed pretty much at the same time, I'm going to leave one as an overlap because I get to choose which one I do first in this situation. And then open up the other one. That tends to lead to more precise folding. Okay, and then I'm back to finishing the hexagon. Cool. And here I'm doing a triangle wrap into the half hexagon tube. If you wanted to just finish the hexagon and have triangles or wraps from the other side's perspective on either side, that's also a possibility. I guess you just need the one wrap. But I'm already used to doing it the other way, so. It looks like we're back to a true tiling break. That's nice. So this one's an unfriendly overlap, but because those triangles are an extra spacing apart, it really doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so we've gotten to repeats of the central twist. We don't see full repeats of the center yet, and that's what the rest of the paper is for. I'm not exactly certain what you mean, Arlu, by end of the cycle. Unless you were posting about when I finished the last set of parallel plates. Or maybe about it being a true tiling break again. Yeah, I haven't looked super closely about or with this tiling expansion recently. Give it a quick look on my end. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot going on in these patterns, but I think you should get tiling breaks at least every other ring around the center. Of course, we've gotten them more often than that. Because there's these stripes 2 tiles thick that the lines continue straight through, and I can see that because they go through a 6-fold point and through a 2-fold point. That means they continue forever. So at least every other tiling break, possibly more, is going to be a true tiling break, but the repeats do not line up with the tiling breaks. So that's fun. So I'm pretty sure, and like by the way the paper is folding, I'm pretty sure that I aligned correctly with the tiling breaks. But we will find out. Yeah, this is the point where I have confirmation that I am folding on tiling breaks aligned with the edge of the paper. And I would actually say that I had I'd gotten to a point where I didn't need the crease pattern anymore earlier, when I passed the positions of 2-fold and 3-fold rotational symmetry. But yeah, this is the point where I can clearly see the repeats, and I can always reference to another exact copy somewhere else. Ah. I see what you mean. A step where I could stop and basically prove that the pattern does repeat. Yeah, you could. But the reason why I was willing to fold 80 grid divisions for this is I wanted to show the repeats as full copies of the center. So we're not quite there yet. And we're not going to get there in the next half hour. But I can at least finish this ring around the center. So you could probably get to this point. You might be able to do it with a 64 division grid, just plain, but I would recommend a 64 division diagonal grid if you're not going to do a full rotation. And I think I said earlier, I think the rotation is 3/5. But I would need to double check that because I folded this like 4 grids ago. There's always more projects going on around here. Yeah. Yeah, Rulu's saying it's time to prepare their last coffee of the day. They like a lot of coffee, and I'm just kind of guessing, based on what you said about your time zone, you're at least 5 hours ahead of me. So it's like 4:30, 5:30-ish in the afternoon for you. That that sounds delightful. Hopefully it's decaf. Hopefully you can still sleep. Hmm. Yeah, drinks and snacks are really easy to spread onto the paper. I have to be extra careful about eating at my desk. I still do it, but usually not while I'm folding a lot. Or I'll have a bowl that I can just lift the bowl instead of lifting the food individually. Chocolate in particular is really hard to get out of paper. Melts on your fingers and then goes straight into the fibers. Oh, you know the hardest thing to get out of paper? Dead bug juice. If you're not paying attention and a bug crawls across your desk, and then you go and do this on top of it, like when the bug's underneath, that is almost impossible to get out. Thankfully, it's not a big problem in my office, but when I bring my origami other places, it can be an issue. So I've got one more set of parallel pleats for this string around the center. And I can tell because there's only one half hexagon tube left. The next one is a full hexagon. Oh yeah. Yeah, the temperature really makes the chocolate stick. And here we're finishing the ring around the center, and I have a compound wrap where I would have had an overlap before. And this rhombus can go ahead and be folded right away instead of waiting for this one, because that one's already folded. Okay. So for the, I'll just start the next ring and do like one set of parallel pleats on it and call it a day, partly because my water bottle is empty, partly because, as I mentioned, I do have an office hour in 25 minutes. So here we're at least going to finish the first ring around the center. We're going to see these first rhombi all the way around. But this particular motif actually takes 2 rings, 2 layers on each side of the hexagon to really complete. We won't see the whole thing, but we will see quite a lot of it. And that rhombus is going to wait to finish until the next time around. Ooh. Yeah, hot summer all around. Seems like there's been pretty crazy weather, lots of places. It's been cooler here lately, but for example, on Sunday we got 2 inches of rain, which really helped drop the humidity. It was quite humid the entire day before that, and I was out doing yard work before that. Let me concentrate a little. But yeah, earlier, did you know that the CFC design challenge for July was summer days / climate change? And I actually submitted something this time. I'll make sure to drop a link to that down in the description after I finish the stream. And it's a pattern named Heat Wave. Very appropriate for the weather. Let's see here. Okay. Here. Okay. Ah, 2 triangles on the back. Okay. And here is an unfriendly overlap, and they are close together, but this bottom one can be flipped the other way because we have this existing triangle. On the same side. Boom. Excuse me. So that's the start of the next ring around the center. I'll probably do a couple more rings before I completely finish, but that is it for the pattern. And yeah, the climate change topic is definitely becoming more noticeable. Also, I just noticed I have a pleat overlap over here that should be a rhombus twist. Not the end of the world, but I'm glad I caught it before I had other overlaps in the area. I'm just checking all the rest of them now. I think I'm good. Okay. And once more with the backlighting. Spinning skirts, the start of the next skirts, and that'll be a very cool pattern, We see those kind of medallions that are separated with the triangle in between. They're just kind of shoot apart with a triangle. That's a common theme with a lot of my tiling expansions. So there we have it. Spinning skirts, or as much of it as I could fold in 100 minutes. So happy folding, everyone, and I will see you next time. And I have mostly forgot. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about resources I have for learning advanced topics in origami tessellation, folding, and design. So happy folding. See you then.